You know that feeling, right? That phrase just seems to be everywhere. I'm busy.
Yeah.
We've all said it, probably heard it, maybe even this morning.
Definitely.
So today, we're not just going to skim the surface. We've got some really interesting material here that dives deep into what busy actually signals, how it affects our communication, what it says about society, the emotional side, and maybe, just maybe, better ways to handle it all.
Right.
So our mission for this deep dive,
Yeah.
get past the idea of just a packed schedule and really understand the deeper currents behind those two little words.
Absolutely. It sounds so simple, I'm busy, but yeah, when you unpack it, wow, it's like a little window into so much more.
It really is.
What's really striking is that gap,
Yeah.
between the words themselves, I'm busy, and what might really be happening underneath.
Okay, so let's start there. On the surface, means your schedule's full, lots to do, fair enough.
Sure. The obvious meaning.
But what else might we be saying or hearing when that phrase comes up? What are some of those hidden messages?
Well, a really common one seems to be about managing connections, or maybe avoiding them sometimes. It can be a softer way to say no, like creating a bit of distance without having to directly disappoint someone. A gentle deflection, maybe?
Okay, a deflection. Makes sense. What else?
Then there's the way it can broadcast something about ourselves. Saying, I'm busy, can subtly imply my time is valuable, I'm in demand.
Right, like a quiet status symbol. My dance card is full.
Exactly. It can function like that. And guilt plays a part, too.
Guilt. How so?
Well, if you feel you've maybe neglected a relationship or put something off, I'm busy, can be a way to sort of defer that difficult conversation you're not quite ready for. Buys you time.
Putting it off. Yeah.
And this one really resonates, I think. The fear of vulnerability.
Oh, tell me more.
It's often just easier, isn't it, to put up the busy shield rather than admitting, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed or I'm exhausted or just emotionally not up to dealing with something right now. It's like the socially acceptable, I'm not okay, without having to spell it out.
That's powerful. It really is like this polite armor we've constructed.
It is. And it's not always, a conscious manipulation.
Yeah.
The material also suggests I'm busy can genuinely reflect internal chaos, feeling scattered, disorganized inside, not just externally booked.
So it could be overwhelm.
Could be. But then on the flip side, sometimes it is just healthy boundary setting, a necessary signal that you've hit your capacity.
Okay, so it's not always an evasion. Sometimes it's a legitimate stop.
Right. But the core idea seems to be that I'm busy often reveals more about our energy, our emotional state, our priorities, or maybe what we're trying to avoid, than just the raw number of appointments on the calendar.
That really reframes it. And the fact that this phrase is so pervasive, it's not just random, is it? You mentioned society pushing us.
Exactly. If we zoom out, the analysis suggests our whole culture kind of fuels this. It actively encourages and even rewards being constantly busy.
How does that work? I mean, life feels busy for so many people. Is it more than just packed schedules?
Well, think about how we talk about it. Our culture has almost turned busyness into a moral good. There's this embedded idea that being productive all the time is virtuous while resting, being idle, that can feel almost like laziness, right? We admire people who are juggling so much.
Oh, totally. We wear sleep deprivation like a badge of honor sometimes. And the source mentions performative labor. What's that about?
Yeah, that's the pressure to appear busy, even if what you're doing isn't that critical.
Like sending emails late at night.
Exactly, just to show you're on it.
Yeah.
It's about projecting that image of being in high demand. And interestingly, this scarcity of your time, or perceived scarcity, translates into social value.
How so?
If you're always busy, the implication is you must be important. You're needed. Being hard to reach can subtly elevate your status.
It's a strange dynamic, isn't it? Being unavailable makes you seem more valuable somehow.
It really is. And then there's the economic angle. The document links this constant rush to consumerism.
Oh, okay.
If we're all feeling time-starved, we become perfect customers for anything promising a shortcut, efficiency, convenience.
Makes sense. Save me time, take my money.
Pretty much. And emotionally, staying busy can be a great distraction.
From what?
From asking tougher questions about our life path, our relationships, our purpose. It's like keeping the music loud so you don't hear the silence.
Yeah, keeping the wheels spinning so you don't have to look too closely at where you're going.
Yeah.
And it feels like this constant focus on doing, producing.
Yeah.
It can almost make us feel less human.
That's a key point in the analysis. It can shift our identity towards being primarily producers or consumers rather than, well, human beings. So the takeaway is this busyness culture isn't an accident. It's kind of marketed and rewarded both by the economic system and by our own egos.
Okay, that paints a really clear picture of why I'm busy is such a default. But what's the cost? What's the emotional toll of relying on this phrase, both for the person saying it and the person hearing it?
The sources highlight some pretty significant emotional fallout. For the speaker, constantly using busy as a shield can actually lead to real emotional detachment over time. You build a wall, and eventually you're kind of stuck behind it.
Isolation.
Yeah. And then there's the guilt, the shame that can build up from neglecting relationships or missing out on things that matter. And crucially, if people start to see busy as just your go-to excuse,
Cruft the roads.
big time, it damages the foundation of the relationship.
Okay, so that's the impact on the person saying it. What about the person on the receiving end? Hearing, I'm busy, again and again.
For them, it can feel like rejection, like they're not important enough, not worth making time for. That can stir up feelings of inadequacy, maybe even resentment over time.
Right, I can see that. It stings after a while.
It does, and it can create this distance. People
Yeah.
might even start doubting themselves, like, am I asking too much? Am I being needy? So this seemingly innocent phrase, used repeatedly, acts like this slow, steady, corrosive agent on our connections.
Wow. Okay, so if I'm busy is often a cover, and it has these negative impacts, how do we break the habit? How do we communicate more authentically, more courageously?
Well, the material points towards something like radical honesty, or maybe just more honesty. Instead of the vague busy, try offering a clearer, more specific reason when it feels right.
Like what? Give me an example.
Something like, I just don't have the bandwidth for that right now, or actually, I'm focusing all my energy on this big project at the moment. It definitely requires more vulnerability.
Yeah, that takes guts.
It does, but it also builds much stronger understanding and connection in the long run. The analysis also really stresses knowing your own values.
How does that help?
When you're clear on what's truly important to you, deciding how to spend your time becomes less about feeling obligated and more about intentional choices that align with those values.
Okay, so knowing your why makes the no easier, or clearer at least.
Exactly. And then there's setting boundaries, but doing it with compassion. Saying no is okay, it's necessary. But the way you say no matters. Kindness and respect make a huge difference.
So honesty with ourselves, honesty with others, but also kindness in the delivery. The source also mentioned emotional check-ins. Why is that part of this?
Just pausing occasionally and asking yourself, okay, why did I just say I was busy? Was it true, or was I avoiding something? Or am I worried about disappointing them? That self-awareness helps catch when busy is just a deflection.
Right, interrogating the impulse.
Yeah, and the material gives some practical language swaps, too. Instead of just, I'm busy, maybe try, things are really packed this week. Could we connect next Tuesday? Or, I wish I could, but my focus really has to be on X right now.
Offering an alternative. That shows you still care about the connection, even if the timing isn't right.
Precisely. The key idea is that authentic prioritizing means respecting your own capacity and the other person's dignity.
That feels like a much healthier way to operate. So building on that, what does a genuinely healthy relationship with our time actually look like, according to these sources?
It involves a shift in perspective, seeing time less as something you own and can hoard, and more as something you steward, manage responsibly.
Stewardship, I like that.
Yeah, and it emphasizes presence over just raw productivity, being fully engaged in whatever you're doing rather than just rushing to the next thing.
Quality over quantity.
Definitely. And being selective, making intentional choices about your commitments, recognizing that every yes implies a no somewhere else, and really importantly, normalizing guilt-free downtime, sacred pauses.
Ah, the guilt-free part is key.
It really is. And in relationships, it means open, transparent communication about what's realistic, allowing for mutual respect and understanding. Ultimately, it's about valuing your own life and valuing others, seeing attention itself as a significant gift we offer.
Attention as a gift. That's a really profound way to think about it. Now, digging a bit deeper again, the source material gets into the underlying psychological reasons why I'm busy is such an easy default. What are some of those drivers?
Well, fundamentally, it often acts as a social defense mechanism. It's protecting us from something uncomfortable.
Like what?
Like direct conflict, for one. Saying, I'm busy, avoids a potentially awkward confrontation or negotiation. It can also be a shield when you're genuinely feeling emotionally overloaded and just don't have the words or energy to explain it.
Okay. Overwhelm again.
Yeah. And for people pleasers, Busy feels much less confrontational than a direct no. It helps avoid feeling selfish or letting someone down.
The path of least resistance, emotionally speaking.
Kind of. Then there's image management we've touched on, this being busy signals importance drive. And sometimes, if someone feels a bit lost or unsure about their priorities, defaulting to busy can mask that lack of clarity.
So it fills a void, almost.
It can. And finally, there's the classic fear of missing out, leading to overcommitment, and then using busy as the inevitable excuse when you can't juggle it all. The main point is that busy often safeguards our ego, our social image, our sense of emotional safety, but usually at the cost of authenticity and real connection.
It's fascinating how one little phrase can wear so many hats psychologically. And the source talks about it becoming a habit, almost an addiction. How does that work?
It's like a feedback loop. The more you use I'm busy, the more it gets reinforced, both in your own mind and in how others see you. You can actually start to believe it fully, internalizing the feeling of constant urgency, even if objective reality is a bit different.
So you buy into your own narrative.
Exactly. And societal norms grease the wheels, right? If your workplace or social circle praises busyness, you get rewarded for that behavior. Plus, emotionally, it's just easier. It's a shortcut.
Easier than what?
Easier than navigating the nuance of saying, actually, I need some quiet time, or I'm feeling anxious about that meeting, or that doesn't align with my priorities right now. Busy bypasses all that complexity.
But it creates an avoidance cycle.
Precisely. It might solve the immediate discomfort, but long term, it creates these emotional gaps and makes genuine communication feel even harder next time. The more you rely on that escape hatch, the rustier your authentic communication skills get.
It's like we're actively practicing being less direct, less honest. Okay, drilling down even further into the psychology, any specific defense mechanisms or fears that are commonly tangled up with saying, I'm busy?
Yeah, the analysis points to a few. One is managing cognitive dissonance.
Explain that one.
That's the mental discomfort when you hold conflicting ideas. Like, I value this friendship and I don't have the energy to talk right now. Saying I'm busy is a quick way to resolve that internal clash, at least temporarily.
It smooths over the contradiction.
Exactly. Fear of disappointing others is huge too. We'd rather seem unavailable than directly let someone down or face their reaction. Our self-worth can also get dangerously tied to productivity if we're not busy. For some, especially those with attachment anxieties, a direct no can feel like risking rejection, so busy feels safer. The underlying psychological theme is often prioritizing internal stability, keeping uncomfortable feelings at bay over engaging with external reality as it is.
It's all about managing our internal state, even if it distorts reality a bit. So given all this, if we want to move away from busy as the default, what are some concrete, healthier communication strategies?
The main theme is shifting towards communication that is more specific, more honest, and importantly, kinder.
Okay, examples.
Instead of just busy, you could set a clear boundary. My plate is really full this month, but I appreciate the offer. Or state an emotional need. I'm feeling pretty drained lately and need to protect my downtime.
Being direct about your needs.
Yeah. Or offer a specific alternative time. Today's impossible, but how about coffee next Wednesday? That shows willingness. You could also share your actual priority. Right now, I need to focus on finishing X, but maybe after that. And sometimes just gentle honesty works. I'm trying to be more intentional with my time commitments right now.
It sounds like it's about finding language that is truthful but also considerate.
Exactly. Balancing reality, kindness, and clarity. It's not about oversharing, but about replacing vagueness with something more concrete and respectful.
That feels achievable. Now, let's think bigger picture again. What are the long-term consequences if we, or society, stay stuck in this chronic state of busyness?
The analysis paints a pretty concerning picture. On a personal level, relationships erode. Friendships, family ties, they weaken from constant neglect or deprioritization.
Makes sense. You don't water the plants, they wither.
Exactly. Emotionally, it breeds disconnection, isolation, and ultimately loneliness, even if you're surrounded by people. Physically and mentally, the link between chronic stress, overcommitment, and burnout, plus other health problems, is well established.
Yeah, the body keeps the score.
It does. We also risk losing touch with ourselves, our authentic feelings and desires, hiding behind that busy persona. And culturally, a society obsessed with busyness starts valuing output over presence, efficiency over empathy. It leads to a kind of dehumanization where our worth is tied to what we produce, not who we are.
Wow.
The core message is stark. Chronic busyness alienates us from ourselves, from each other, and from the moments that actually make life meaningful.
That's sobering. It really makes you question how we ended up here.
Mhm.
The source material looks at the history, the cultural roots of this. Can you walk us through some of that?
Sure, a lot of it traces back to the Industrial Revolution, the shift to factory work, time clocks, that really hammered home the idea that time equals money and human value is measured by output per hour.
The birth of the clock watcher.
Pretty much. Then you layer on the influence of the Puritan work ethic, especially strong in places like the US, where hard work wasn't just practical, it was seen as a sign of moral goodness. Idleness was suspect.
So being busy became virtuous.
Deeply ingrained. And it's interesting how this plays out differently. In the US, busyness often signals status. In parts of Europe, having leisure time might actually be seen as a higher sign of success. And then you have extreme cases like karoshi in Japan, death from overwork, which shows the tragic endpoint of equating worth entirely with work.
A grim warning.
Absolutely. And more recently, technology, smartphones, constant connectivity, remote work, they've blurred the lines completely. It's harder than ever to truly disconnect. The key takeaway is that this obsession with busyness isn't some immutable law of nature. It's a cultural invention, something we've built over time, and it varies.
So if we built it, maybe we can rebuild it differently. That leads into the philosophical side. How do thinkers view this relentless activity?
Well, philosophers like Heidegger talked about our being toward death. The idea that knowing our time is limited should make us focus on meaningful existence, not just motion.
Activity isn't the same as purpose.
Precisely. There's a big difference between just filling time and living intentionally. From this viewpoint, true fulfillment comes from actions aligned with deep values, not just checking boxes. And the sources also suggest busyness can be a powerful form of existential avoidance.
Avoiding what?
Avoiding the big, maybe uncomfortable questions. Am I living a life that's true to myself? What really matters? Am I making meaningful connections if you're always rushing?
You don't have time to ask or listen for the answers.
Exactly. It shields you from the silence where those questions might arise. So the profound insight here is that busy can become a way to numb ourselves spiritually and escape from the awesome, sometimes scary freedom of choosing how we live.
Wow, an escape from freedom. That's heavy. Now, to make this a bit more concrete, the source material actually breaks down busy into different types. Can you give us a sense of those?
Yeah, it's a useful distinction because not all busyness feels the same or comes from the same place.
Yeah.
There's purposeful busy, genuinely engaged in tasks that feel meaningful or necessary.
Okay, the good kind of busy.
Right. Then there's habitual busy, stuck in routines, maybe driven by anxiety or just autopilot, doing things that aren't essential. Performative busy is next. That's the projecting an image, looking busy for status or approval.
We talked about that one, looking the part.
Exactly. Then avoidant busy, using activity to dodge feelings, people, or those big life questions we just mentioned. And finally, boundaryless busy, where your schedule is dictated entirely by external demands with no internal filter or limits.
That's a really helpful lens. I can see myself and others falling into those different categories at different times. And does the meaning or the cost of being busy change as we go through life?
The analysis suggests it absolutely does. In young adulthood, busy is often tied to ambition, building a career, seeking external validation. Prove yourself.
Makes sense. The hustle phase.
Right. Then comes midlife, often a point of reflection, maybe crisis. People might start questioning if all that busyness actually brought happiness or fulfillment.
The is this all there is moment.
Could be. And then, looking towards older age, reflections often shift again. The source mentions end-of-life research, like the famous top 5 regrets of the dying.
Oh yeah, no, that one.
A major regret is often prioritizing work and busyness over relationships, experiences, and personal passions. Wishing they hadn't worked so hard, wishing they'd stayed in touch with friends. So the meaning and the perceived cost of being constantly busy definitely seems to evolve.
That's a powerful perspective check. Thinking about future regrets.
Yeah.
Now, if someone recognizes this pattern in themselves and wants to change, the source briefly mentions therapeutic approaches. What kind of help is out there?
Several things can help. Mindfulness practices are huge. Learning to be present, noticing the urge to be busy without automatically acting on it. Boundary coaching can give practical skills for saying no effectively and protecting your time and energy.
Learning to build those senses.
Yes. If the root is fear of disappointing others, maybe linked to past experiences, exploring attachment patterns in therapy can be really insightful. Values clarification exercises help you figure out what truly matters so you can align your time with that.
Getting clear on your non-negotiables.
Exactly. And for deeper-seated patterns where busyness might be covering up anxiety, trauma, or other issues, more introspective work, sometimes called shadow work, can help uncover and address those root causes.
So there are tools and approaches depending on the underlying reason. Looking forward now, does the material suggest things might be changing? Are we maybe moving away from peak busyness?
There are definitely hopeful signs mentioned. We're seeing counter movements emerge, things like quiet quitting, slow productivity, the soft life trend. They all point towards a pushback against relentless hustle culture.
A reevaluation.
Yeah, a potential redefinition of what success even means. Moving beyond just hours logged or promotions gained towards things like impact, well-being, creativity, quality of life. Some futurists even talk about time affluence, having control over your time becoming a new, perhaps more meaningful marker of wealth and status.
Having time is the ultimate luxury.
Exactly. So the hopeful note is that we might be at or nearing the end of peak hustle. A shift towards more balance and intention might be underway.
That's definitely an encouraging thought to wrap up with. It really drives home the main point of this whole deep dive, doesn't it? That phrase, "I'm busy," is it's rarely just about the clock.
So rarely.
It's packed with our emotions, our bandwidth, the social scripts we follow, our hidden fears, and ultimately what we truly prioritize, consciously or not.
Absolutely. It's a reflection of our inner world and the outer pressures we face.
And the potential payoff for shifting away from that default, for choosing communication that's more honest, more specific, more compassionate, it sounds like it's huge. Deeper connections, healthier lives, actually being present for our own experiences.
It really is about moving from just reacting to the demands of the day to intentionally shaping our time and our lives based on what matters.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah.
The next time you catch yourself saying, "I'm busy," or you hear from someone else, just pause for a second. What might really be going on underneath? It could open up a much more interesting and maybe more honest conversation.
A great place to start.
Thanks for diving deep into this with us today.